Ranking Senator Reed of Rhode Island is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And like Senator Brett, I had the opportunity to travel to Israel and the region last weekend, and the horrific events of the last several days have really, I think, focused the whole world on how we can disrupt and degrade these terrorist organizations. Mr. Levitt, one point I think you made, though, is even under the maximum pressure campaign of President Trump, Iran was still funding these organizations at a robust level. Is that accurate?
It is. It's not. It's not pointing a finger at any one administration. Right. But the fact is, the numbers of 100 million to Hamas and 700 million to $1 billion to Hezbollah were numbers that came out in the Trump administration. And because Iran doesn't care about its citizenry and doesn't prioritize it, it doesn't matter if people are freezing in a cold winter and don't have gas for their homes. They're going to prioritize. And because Iran is a big economy, even under sanction, it can do this.
Right. But that has to be considered when we think about imposing sanctions on Iran, because in fact, what they do is deprive, as you said, their own people of basic necessities in order to keep funding these revolutionary movements in their view. Is that fair?
At the end of the day, Iran has to be held responsible for its significant role in these heinous attacks. Some of that's going to have to be sanctions.
Yeah, no, I agree. One of the issues, I think, is because of the proximity and also the controls that the state of Israel have on Gaza, particularly, and Hamas, is what role can we play with Israel to effectively interrupt the flow of resources, weapons, materiel to Hamas?
I really appreciate that question, because I think this is something that's needs to get a lot more attention. How did all those weapons that Hamas just used get in? There's going to have to be a more robust maritime effort. There's going to have to be more robust surveillance of what goes into Syria. It can't be all on the Israelis to do airstrikes targeting Iranian weapons supplies to Hezbollah in particular. We failed here. All of us failed here when you look at the weapons that got in, and we're going to have to do better. U.S. has unique capabilities here, and I think the administration has been very, very clear that it intends to use them to help Israel.
And this would be a collaborative effort, but both the world community and Israel has to focus on these networks by both covert and overt means, tracking bank accounts, et cetera. But I think, frankly, this was an area that we all missed, that we tolerated, in that we knew this money was going into Hamas, but there was no preemptive action by any of the major powers. Is that fair? Or?
There was a lot that was missed, but there was also a major policy error by everybody involved on the calculation that Hamas was deterred, and that so long as money went in for salaries, it's not just that we knew it, we encouraged it. The Israelis encouraged it, so that there would be calm in Gaza. That calculation failed miserably, and is going to have to be revisited.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think there was a perception that Hamas had become just another sort of organized crime operation with no serious plans to attack Israel, and as long as we paid them off, we'd be okay. That's a little bit vernacular, but I think that sense has some relevance.
So I think it's spot on, and I can't reiterate enough. Hamas didn't attack because of occupation. Hamas didn't attack because there's no two-state solution. Hamas is dead set against a two-state solution, or any solution that would have anything but an Islamist state and no Israel.
No, I think Hamas hates Israel and has no regard for the Palestinians either. They're pawns in their operations, and we have to recognize that, as well as their profound hatred of Israel and the state of Israel. Dr. Wagman, one of the things that we've been working on with my colleagues, Senator Warner and Senator Rounds and Senator Romney, is the legislation that would go after the intermediaries, the decentralized financed arrangements Could you comment very briefly, I'm running out of time, about that?
Yeah, sure. So in order to confront the threats of this technology, like any other technology, it can be used in many different ways. A toolbox should be developed and actually have been developed and should be continued developing in order to be able to do some tracing and to have some accountable parts that will be able to identify the bad actors that are going there. Because most of the activities is going over the blockchain and there is a lot of transparency, we could actually use this technology in order to trace the bad actors. One of the things that we've recently seen is that Hamas stopped its fundraising through Bitcoin because the Israeli authorities were able to trace that. And perhaps to add to that, it's not only the intelligence community that is able to do that, but here, because everything is transparent, we could do a lot of work by the private sector. And we see a lot of crowdsourcing activities of people that are actually go after and try to find those networks and then report that to the authorities. So that's a very interesting balance that changed in intelligence communities.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, the bill number is S2355, so I ask for support.
Thank you, Senator Reed. Senator Tillis from North Carolina is online, I think, from his office.